Turn my phone
Okay.
off.
Ready? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Kentucky Public Service Commission. My name is Michael Schmidt. I'm chairman of the commission, and seated to my left is Vice Chairman Robert Cicero, and to my left, Dr. Talina Matthews. We are accompanied by several members of the Public Service Commission staff this evening. They are Gwen Pinson, Mark Frost, Brittany Koenig, Jacqueline Hartzell, Andrew Melnikovich, I don't know what, and Jim Rhodes. Sorry, Andrew.
Reading in the dark.
I can't see. We're here for the purpose of taking public comment on the application of Kentucky American Water Company for approval of an adjustment of rates for its water service. The case number is 2018-00358. If you were here for the earlier informational session, you heard about this application in greater detail and also received an explanation of how the Public Service Commission will go about reaching a decision in this case. If you missed the presentation, it is available on the Public Service Commission website, psc.ky.gov. We understand that any matter that affects utility rates is likely to produce strong and differing opinions. We trust that everyone here this evening will present their comments in a respectful manner and respect the right of everyone to be heard. Now let me explain how we will proceed for the remainder of this event. We are here to listen to the public. Therefore, there will be no presentation by Kentucky American Water or any of the other parties to this case, nor will there be any question and answer period involving the parties. The Commission will be taking sworn testimony from them in a forthcoming evidentiary hearing. That hearing is 1 week from today. Allowing questions and answers on the record as part of this meeting creates the potential for procedural problems later on in the process. However, representatives of Kentucky American Water Company, as well as representatives from the Kentucky Attorney General's office, are here this evening and have agreed to remain after the conclusion of the public comments to meet informally with anyone who has any individual questions that you wish the company or the Office of the Attorney General, who represents in general ratepayers, any questions you may have. At this time, would Kentucky American's representatives please stand up so the public can see who you are? Okay. And
That's everybody.
all right. The only people that haven't stood up are those wanting to speak, I guess, in our distinguished Attorney General's office. Gentlemen, would you stand up? Mr. Chandler and Mr. McNeil are here on behalf of the Office of the Kentucky Attorney General. Those of you wishing to speak should have indicated your intention to do so when you signed in this evening. If you have not signed in, you are still welcome to speak, and I will invite you to do so after those who have signed up to speak have made their comments. Based on the number of people who've indicated a desire to speak, and at this time we only have 2 people who have done so, we are not going to enforce a time limit, but please, there's probably no reason to go over 10 minutes. Our timekeeper will let you know when you have a minute remaining, and by holding up a yellow card, and when your time is up at the end of 10 minutes by showing a red card. Those of you who do not wish to speak may submit comments in writing. We have comment forms available at the registration desk, and you may turn those in tonight to a member of the Public Service Commission staff, or mail or fax them to the PSC. The address and phone number are on the forms. You also may submit comments by email through the PSC website. Once again, that's psc.ky.gov. As you can see, this meeting is being recorded, and the video will be available on our website. A summary of the public comments received tonight will be prepared for the Public Service Commission and will become a part of the record in this case, which is also on the PSC website. All written comments also will be entered into the case record. Written comments will be accepted through the date of the formal evidentiary hearing in this case. That hearing, during which Kentucky American Water Company and the other parties will present their cases to the Public Service Commission and be subject to cross-examination. This hearing will begin at 9 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time next Monday, May 13th, at the PSC office at 211 Sauer Boulevard in Frankfort, Kentucky, and may last several days. It is open to the public and will be streamed live on the Public Service Commission website. 3 important things to keep in mind before we begin. Because the commissioners must rule on the Kentucky American Water application, we cannot answer questions pertaining to the substance of this case. However, questions you raise during this meeting may well be of assistance to the Commission and staff as we prepare for the evidentiary hearing. And PSC staff will be available, along with the Office of the Attorney General and Kentucky Americans people, after the public comments are concluded, to answer any questions you may have regarding procedural matters in the case. The Public Service Commission has jurisdiction only over the rates and services of utilities. We have no jurisdiction over matters such as environmental standards or public health. Those are regulated by a number of federal, state, and local agencies. Therefore, the most helpful comments are those that directly address the merits of the Kentucky American Water proposal with respect to the size and structure of the requested rate adjustment and the reasons for the adjustment. The legal standard which the Commission must follow in determining rates is that they be fair, just, and reasonable. While the PSC is certainly aware of and sensitive to the impact of rate adjustments on a utility's customers, Kentucky law does not include affordability as a consideration in the setting of rates. If you have any concerns or questions about service or billing for individual accounts, the most effective way to have those addressed is to speak with a member of the PSC staff after this meeting or call our toll-free consumer hotline at 800-772-4636 during regular business hours. When you come up to speak, please state your name and place of residence. At this time, is there any public official present who would like to step forward and provide a statement to the Public Service Commission about this case? Okay. If not, then we'll call the names of those who wish to speak in the order that they appear on the paper. Tom Marshall.
Good evening. My name is Tom Marshall. I am not a ratepayer of Kentucky American. I am a stockholder of Kentucky American. But my comments are probably not those that the Board of Directors of American Water Company would endorse.
Could you please state your address?
My address? My address is Post Office Box 223, Frankfort, Kentucky. And I am retired. Once upon a time, many, many years ago, I was General Counsel for the Public Service Commission. Also, Director of Legal Services for what was then the Environmental Protection Cabinet and Chief Hearing Officer. But I've had various jobs. I am no longer practicing law. I used to do a lot of lobbying for pay. I don't do it for pay anymore. I do it as a citizen. And I guess I felt compelled to come today to continue my citizen advocacy. You weren't there at the time, maybe Ms. Matthews was, I can't recall, back in 2007 when there was the Construct case for the 20 MGD plus, I believe, that was the testimony of Ms. Bridwell, they can do more than 20, up on the Kentucky River where they decided that they would come through Scott and Franklin counties with their 32 miles of pipeline, a very, very large pipeline, which they then had to construct the facilities, and KU had to run their lines, and testimony at the time was that they have to run 6 million gallons a day in order to keep the line fresh. So they completed that, I believe, in September of 2010, after the commission had given them permission, and based upon the representations as to what the demand would be for the water. What I'm going to present today is my belief that, and I think I encourage you to look at the record and see if you can satisfy yourselves that my numbers are correct, that even after all these years that have passed since the order was issued in April of 2008, allowing the construction, that the plant has still not been needed. You know, as you know what the standard is for construction, and I don't believe that standard has ever been met. So whether it's needed in the future or not, we've had a considerable number of years where the ratepayers have been paying for the construction of this plant, which at the time was said to have been in the neighborhood of $165 million for the plant and the associated facilities, including the pipeline. That doesn't include the everyday expenses such as personnel, the power, and whatever other expenses go along with continuing the operation of the plant in Owen County, just north of the Franklin County line, pumping that water to Lexington, and keeping the facilities that keep that water flowing current. And let's go to the numbers for a minute. What I have here, and I'll leave you a copy of this, is that the Kentucky American Water Demand Projections is filed in case 2007-00134, and these obviously are in million gallons a day. Assuming normal weather conditions, the projected maximum day demand, and for 2010, 70.87 MGD. 2015, projected maximum day demand, assuming normal weather, 73.97, and then it steps up through on 5-year increments in this proposal up to 2030, where the projection was it would be 81.87. Of course, we're talking about maximum day, we're talking about peak, and I certainly understand that. For comparison, I went back and looked at Kentucky American's annual reports, and I believe I have transcribed these correctly, that the actual maximum or peak day for the years 2010, you recall it was supposed to be 70.87, it was 61.36. For 2015, it was supposed to be 73.97, it was 57.25. The actual maximum day demand for since 2015, 2016, 57.146, 17, 60, 18, 57.953. What I'm kind of steering toward is, I don't want to talk about stuff you all know, and Mr. Milankovic's gone over. But obviously a large part of the rate base is recovery for this plant and for the daily operation of that plant. It seems to me patently unfair to the customers of Lexington, who were the ones who supposedly all this was supposed to be for back then, are paying for a plant that to date has not been needed. They could have handled weather conditions that we've had, and we had 1 year where there was, as I understand it, a drought, perhaps the third worst drought we've had in some time, and that would have been 2012, I believe. So it hasn't been just a matter of we've just had all kinds of rain, and there hasn't been the demand because of that. Even when we had some drought conditions, we still did not get up to where they were projecting. I believe it was in the neighborhood of 68 MGD. That year was the peak, And remember, that was without any demand-side management. There was no going, alternating days for water as you would have in the past. I remember one of the commissioners during one of the cases saying, well, it looks like, don't worry, be happy, you can use all the water you want. Well, but you're paying. You're paying for that plant. You're paying for that daily transportation of that water, which probably doesn't need to be transported. We are incurring the carbon footprint that is associated with transporting that water. But it seems to me that it would be appropriate for now for there to be a look back, a reconsideration, perhaps some kind of reconciliation. Why is it that the customers have to pay for this plant? It seems like the shareholders bear no risk whatsoever. I mean, they're continuing to receive their dividends, the growth. I used to think that water companies were what is an orphan stock, as they used to call them. Well, I bought, because I could see this was a pretty good deal from watching what happened in case 2007. I wish I'd bought a lot more stock. But for 100 shares of stock, back when I was looking at buying it and bought some, it was $21.50. And that would have been, I believe it was May of 2008. It closed today, and it came down a little bit because of the fluctuation in the market today, to 107.21. That's a pretty good increase for a widows and orphan stock in terms of growth. Also, the dividend has been pretty sweet too for that kind of a stock, in my opinion. But I guess I should be happy I can sell my stock and make a really nice return. I would think that the board of directors, who I'm sure own some stock, executives with the companies, who I'm sure own some stock, all the people on Wall Street who've invested are getting a sweet nut out of this thing. This has been a great stock to own, and you can look at the literature and see that that's so. I know my time's limited, so let me bring up a couple other things. The unified rate. When that unified rate was adopted, and y'all can probably tell me, I can't recall exactly when, 13 or so. When that was adopted, that was another get for Kentucky American and for American Water Company. That is, in my opinion, that is unfair to the original customers of Kentucky American. It's a sweet deal for these some of the municipals that are being acquired. If they get a premium when the system is sold, look at North Middletown. They're making money on that. What I understand, there's going to be a reduction in rate for North Middletown. I mean, come on, that's not what a unified rate ought to be about. And not only that, perhaps a unified rate should not have been adopted. I never understood why it was really adopted anyway, other than it had been requested. So I would like for you to take a close look at the unified rate and explain why you're going to maintain the unified rate if you're going to do so. And I see that my time is up. Thank you very much.
Can you hear me okay? My name's Charles Bowsher, B-O-W-S-H-E-R. I live here in Lexington. You need my street address? Residential, 508 South Bend Drive, Lexington, Kentucky, 40503. I've been a Lexington resident my whole life. I'm in my 60s now. We don't have to be specific. And I'm here because, I heard about this on the radio a couple of weeks ago, and I thought somebody needs to come and make a conservation statement about this, because I think that we're looking at this all wrong as far as these rate cases go. And that is that the earth is covered 2/3 or 4/5 with water, but only 2% of that is fresh water. And so it's time that our water companies' rate structure reflect that. My point in bringing this up is that this is not an unlimited resource anymore, and it should be priced accordingly. And until Kentucky American Water proposes rates that reflect that reality, then no rate increase should be granted. It is long past time that this utilities and others begin to think in terms of rates and their direct effect on conservation by its customers. What I propose is this. The Kentucky American assemble a group of its customers, residential, commercial, and industrial, and ask them to come up with a plan that would begin to head us towards a rate structure that would encourage conservation among all its customers. For example, if the average residential customer, as stated earlier tonight, uses 3,870 gallons a month, then a customer using more than that average would have to pay a little higher rate for that excess usage. If this excess usage is excessive, then they should have to pay an even higher rate. This would apply to commercial and industrial users as well. Long gone should be the days when commercial or industrial users get a reduced rate as they use more and more water. That just doesn't make sense when you're dealing with a limited resource. Until then, no rate increase is necessary, nor should any rate increase be granted. To do otherwise is to shirk your duties as the Public Service Commission, and to do otherwise is to ignore all our responsibilities to future generations. My final point is that the return on equity that he stated earlier was 10.8%, and in the current interest rate environment, that is more comparable to a rate that you would have seen in the 1970s or 1980s. When we've got single-digit interest rates, I don't see how it's justifiable to allow them to have that high of a rate of return on equity. So that's all the comment I have. I just would ask that you all begin to think in terms of conservation and maybe ask these companies, maybe it's time that you look at how your rates are structured, because for industrial users and commercial, the more they use, the lower rate they pay. I understand that it's an efficiency thing, but this is not an unlimited product. And so I thank you all for your time, and good luck with the rate case.
Thank you. Now, no one else, as far as the records we have here show, has signed up to speak. But at this time, is there anyone in the audience this evening who has not signed up but who would like to come up and address the commission? Apparently there is not, so if there's no one else that would like to present anything for the commission to consider, this hearing and this meeting is hereby adjourned. Thank you very much.